Do you believe love happens by chance? What if I told you that love is not random? According to Carl Jung, there are two hidden triggers that awaken powerful attraction, and they're acting within you right now, even if you don't realize it. In this video, you'll understand why you feel so connected to certain people, and why it goes far beyond just looks or personality. Get ready to see your relationships in a whole new light. What attracts us reveals something essential about who we are, and the key to transforming your love life is closer than you think. It might seem like love happens by chance, like a stumble of destiny amid life's hustle, but there's a hidden mechanism operating behind what we call a spark. It's not just beauty or the way someone talks that hooks our heart. What really moves us comes from a much deeper place, from the unconscious. It's as if a silent part within us recognizes something familiar in the other person, something we can't always explain logically. And that's where the invisible dance between two internal worlds that meet begins. Behind this sudden attraction lies powerful symbolism. We don't fall in love with the person themselves, but with what they represent within our psyche. It's as if the other person is a mirror reflecting something forgotten, repressed, or even idealized. Have you noticed how some people affect us right away, as if they were touching an invisible string? This symbolic touch is as subtle as it is decisive. That's why a stranger can seem so intimate to us, as if we were reliving an old story with a new face. And the most curious thing? Sometimes, the reason why someone deeply attracts us isn't even close to conventional logic. You could list 1,000 reasons why that person would be incompatible, and yet something pulls you toward them. It's not witchcraft, it's psychic structure in action. And the more we deny this unconscious factor, the more it works behind the scenes. There's a secret behind attraction that nobody tells you, and it begins with the first psychological trigger identified by Jung. You represent something they lack. That's right. The person doesn't fall in love with you, literally. They fall in love with what you symbolize within them. Something that's absent, muffled, or forgotten in their own psyche. That's why it's not uncommon to see an extremely shy person feel magnetically attracted to someone bold, full of presence and attitude. This type of connection isn't superficial. It's archetypal. It's as if the person's unconscious were saying, "Look over there. That's yours too. It's just dormant." The first psychological trigger works like a reflection, where the other embodies something that the individual hasn't yet accessed within themselves. And this happens all the time. Someone who's always been rational, for example, might be enchanted by someone more intuitive, spontaneous, and free. Attraction, in this case, is an invitation to inner expansion, even if the person doesn't consciously realize it. Now, if you stop and think about your own relationships, you'll see this pattern repeats frequently. What you admire or desire in others is often something you need to develop within yourself. And that's the key point of this first trigger. The person is like a messenger, not the final destination. They show you, without knowing it, a part of yourself that needs to bloom. But what happens when this image we project onto others starts to deceive us? Few people realize it, but when an overwhelming passion arises, what's usually at stake isn't true love. It's projection. Instead of perceiving the person as they really are, what we see is a reflection of our own needs, expectations, and unconscious desires. This is the second psychological trigger that, according to Jung, awakens attraction, a resonance between what's missing inside and what the other seems to represent. The connection isn't rational, it's emotional, symbolic. The other vibrates exactly in the tone of your internal absences. This projection can manifest in very specific ways. A woman who grew up without male figures present, for example, might project onto her partner the archetype of a savior, someone who will fill an old void. And even without the other promising anything, she already sees them as someone capable of healing her. The problem is that this image doesn't hold up when reality appears. The real partner begins to crumble in the face of the fantasy that was built. And that's when frustrations, disappointments, and conflicts arise. That's why some passions seem to evaporate out of nowhere, as if they had been just a dream, and in a way they were. A dream projected onto the other. The person didn't change. What changed was the lens. And here's the central point. Projection is inevitable. But when it's unconscious, it puts us in relationships based on illusion. When we realize this, we have the chance to see the other with more clarity, and to see ourselves too. And if you thought that spark was just chemistry, what comes next might surprise you. Have you ever wondered where that sudden spark of passion comes from? It's believed to be something magical or supernatural, but in fact, it's a manifestation of each person's internal psychological structures. What we feel as irresistible attraction doesn't come from nowhere. It's the visible result of unconscious layers formed by our personal history, unmet needs, and even traumas we didn't know we carried. Jung said that the architecture of love, that is, the way it's structured within us, is a direct reflection of these internal dynamics. What appears to be instant attraction is actually a reflection of a psychological fit that already exists somewhere in our psyche. And this is where the beauty and complexity of love comes in. It's not just about carnal or superficial desire, but about opening doors to unexplored parts of ourselves. When people fall in love, they often don't know they're being guided by a set of unconscious forces that connect them to the other in a way that transcends the rational. This perception changes everything. When we look at the spark with more clarity, we can understand that it's not mere chance, but a reflection of something much bigger in our psychology. What happens between two people is not a coincidence. It's the expression of a deep construction that both carry within themselves. And this leads us to the next point, the awakening of deep images that are hidden in the depths of our psyche. The second trigger that awakens attraction is when the person you meet awakens a deep inner image, something that goes beyond superficial qualities. When you fall in love, often what's at stake isn't just what the other person is externally, but how much they reflect an archetypal image that you carry deep in your psyche. Jung identified this as anima, the unconscious feminine image in men, and animus, the unconscious masculine image in women. When someone approaches these internal images, attraction is instant, as it resonates on a deep level. These archetypes are like psychological mirrors. Imagine a woman who inside represses or hasn't developed her own strength and courage. Upon meeting an assertive and bold man, feels an immediate attraction. He, in a way, is reflecting her animus, bringing to light aspects of her own psyche that she hasn't yet recognized or explored. The same happens with men. When they fall in love with women who represent the archetype of the anima, they come into contact with emotional and creative qualities that they themselves may have difficulty accessing. The interesting thing is that this attraction isn't about what the person actually does, but about the symbolic image they represent. We are in fact in love not with the person, but with the version they represent of what's missing in us. And when this image is projected onto someone, attraction becomes an irresistible force. But, as we'll see, this projection, although powerful, can generate confusion, because what we see in the other is more a reflection of what's inside us than the reality of the person themselves. When we fall in love, it's natural that we idealize the other. Attraction, fueled by our desires and the projection of our needs, creates an image of perfection about the other that doesn't always correspond to reality. The problem is that behind this idealization, we often don't see the person as they really are, but as we would like them to be. This fantasy prevents us from seeing the flaws, limitations, and complexities that make the other person who they truly are. And over time, this illusion gets undone. The truth about idealization is that it's based on an unrealistic expectation and often on an emotional void that we try to fill. When reality begins to appear and the qualities we projected onto the other don't materialize, disappointment is almost inevitable. The person who, at the beginning, seemed perfect starts to show their imperfections, and with that, love can begin to crumble. This process is painful, but it's fundamental for the relationship to evolve, as it forces us to look at the other with more clarity and authenticity. The illusion of idealization teaches us an important lesson. True love isn't in a perfect model of the other, but in accepting imperfections and the ability to grow together. The challenge, therefore, is to learn to deconstruct this idealized image and embrace the other in their totality, with all their qualities and flaws. This doesn't mean that passion goes away, but that it transforms into something deeper, more real, and more lasting. Love for Jung isn't just a passing emotion or a simple state of pleasure. It is, in fact, a powerful tool for personal transformation. In a romantic relationship, we aren't just seeking pleasure or comfort, but the opportunity to grow, to explore parts of our psyche that were hidden. The partner becomes then a mirror, reflecting aspects of ourselves that we might never have noticed. They aren't just someone with whom we share moments, but someone who challenges us to be more than we are. It's as if, when falling in love, the relationship were a journey of self-discovery. Love puts us face to face with our own fears, desires, insecurities, and potentials. It demands that we confront what's hidden in our psyche, offering a chance for us to evolve. It may be that when falling in love, we discover aspects of our behavior or our beliefs that were previously in the background. And this is essential for our transformation, because it's only by seeing these hidden layers that we can integrate them and grow. Throughout a relationship, we're constantly challenged to see beyond the surface, to look at the other with more depth, and to accept not only what's easy, but also what's difficult. This transformation process can be challenging, but it's through it that we can become more authentic versions of ourselves. And in doing so, we not only change the relationship, but also change the way we see ourselves in the world. Love becomes, then, the force that shapes us and drives us to evolve. Lovers play an important symbolic role in our emotional and psychological journey. Often, the romantic partner isn't just someone with whom we share our days, but someone who acts as a psychological key holder, opening doors to parts of ourselves that we don't yet know. The presence of the other, with their qualities and challenges, invites us to look more closely at what we need to evolve. It's not uncommon that throughout a relationship, we discover abilities or weaknesses that we didn't even know existed within us. This symbolic role of lovers goes beyond words or gestures of affection. They serve as an invitation, a mirror, and even a challenge for us to grow. When someone enters our lives and awakens something deep within us, it can be an opportunity to heal old wounds or to reconnect with dreams and ambitions we had lost. The relationship, then, isn't just about the other, but about the transformation it provides us. Lovers are often the catalyst for an inner evolution that only becomes possible through the relationship. Even if the relationship doesn't last, the symbolic impact of that love remains. When someone touches us deeply, their presence marks us in a way that transforms us forever. Love doesn't need to be eternal to have an eternal effect. This symbolic role goes beyond simple coexistence. It's in what the other represents for our personal growth. Each lover, each relationship is an opportunity to connect with an aspect of our own psyche that we need to integrate for our evolution. Often, when we look at our past relationships, we see patterns that repeat themselves. That type of person, the same type of situation, or even the same mistakes made. Jung believed that these patterns are the reflection of unconscious structures that continue to shape our choices, if we aren't aware of them. These repetitive cycles arise because our psyche seeks somehow to resolve unresolved issues from the past. The problem is that without the necessary awareness, we end up attracting the same situations, expecting different results. The key to breaking these cycles lies in awakening to what's happening in our unconscious mind. When we become aware of the patterns that repeat themselves, we can understand why certain relationships or situations continue to manifest. This process of self-knowledge is fundamental to avoid these patterns becoming traps. After all, when we're on autopilot, it's very easy to fall into the same emotional traps without realizing it. But by bringing these issues to light, we gain power to change the course of our emotional life. Awakening to these patterns requires courage and often the willingness to look at oneself in a raw and honest way. This isn't easy, but it's the first step to interrupt the automatic repetition of what doesn't work. When we can understand what leads us to act the way we do, we can consciously choose a new path, and thus we begin to live more authentically, with fewer repetitions and more evolution in love and relationships. Jung believed that true love begins within ourselves. It isn't a desperate search for something we lack, but an expression of the fullness that already exists within each of us. When we are complete in our own identity and consciousness, love becomes something genuine, deep, and transformative. It ceases to be a means to fill voids and becomes a celebration of what we already are, of what we've already achieved in our own growth. In this state, the relationship becomes a union between two people who are already complete in themselves. Upon reaching this fullness, love ceases to be an expectation of something we were missing. It transforms into a rich and healthy exchange between two individuals who respect each other, support each other, and grow together. When someone enters our life from this place of completeness, the relationship is more balanced and healthy because we're no longer expecting the other to make us feel whole. We are, yes, sharing what we already are, what we already have of best. This is the strongest and most real love we can experience. However, the journey to fullness isn't linear and easy. It involves self-knowledge, acceptance of our shadows, and often learning to be comfortable with our own company. When we can achieve this level of emotional self-sufficiency, love becomes an expression of our own evolution and not a desperate search. And it's from this place that true, deep, and transformative love can bloom, generating a union based on freedom, authenticity, and mutual respect. Now that you know the two psychological triggers that awaken attraction, I want you to start looking at your relationships in a new way. Are you being attracted to something within you that hasn't been developed yet? Or are you idealizing someone's image without realizing it? Ask questions, explore these issues, and don't be afraid to delve into what's happening in your mind. Love doesn't need to be an incessant search for something missing, but rather a journey of self-knowledge and evolution. And remember, true transformation happens when you become complete within yourself. If you want to continue learning more about this process, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Until the next video.